Have you ever wondered when exactly we started having to pay for everything? Well, let's take a little trip back in time to the exact moment one person had the brilliant, or, terrible idea to start charging for things that had been free for centuries. This is the story of how medieval Europe basically invented the service fee.
Right. Before all that, there was a simpler time. A time when you could, believe it or not, just bake a loaf of bread without having to first scroll through 3 pages of terms and conditions. And that brings us to our hero, the communal bread oven. This was pretty much one of the last genuinely wholesome things peasants could rely on. You'd bring your dough, your neighbor would bring theirs, you'd all bake together. No fees, no subscriptions, just community.
And it really was that simple. It was this little symbol of self-sufficiency, a place where the only thing you had to worry about was whether your bread was going to turn out slightly less sad than last week's. And then, of course, disaster struck. It seems one morning, the local lord woke up and just sensed joy somewhere on his land. And he decided, you know what? That kind of unmonetized happiness is a problem that needs to be solved. Immediately. And just like that, the party was over. He basically stormed into the village square, stared at the oven like it personally offended him, and declared that heat was now a luxury item. The free communal oven, it was officially a premium members-only experience now. And the new system? Oh, it was a masterpiece of nickel and diming. Try to bake at home to avoid the fee, and you'd probably burn your hut down. But if you use the Lord's oven, there's a whole new menu of penalties. Accidentally burn your bread? That's a fee. Complain about the fees? Oh, that's an insolence fee. You get the picture. The vibe shift was just dramatic. What used to be a place of community and hope was suddenly the medieval equivalent of the DMV. You've got long lines, terrible service, and one guy in charge who clearly wishes everyone would just go away. The peasants got used to it, but they had a sinking feeling this was only the beginning. Because let's be honest, if a lord could charge for baking bread, what couldn't he charge for? This logic started spreading like wildfire, from man-made things to, well, nature itself. The new motto was simple and terrifying. If a peasant needs it to survive, put a price tag on it. So first up were the rivers. Some nobleman just stops by a river one day, decides it now flows exclusively for him, and bam, river tolls were born. It was basically the medieval equivalent of charging people for breathing. If you wanted to cross, you paid, and if you didn't, you might have to pay anyway for the privilege of someday crossing.
Then came the forests. A baron sees a peasant pick up a single sad little stick and has an epiphany. He can own every single branch. All of a sudden, you needed a permit to collect firewood. Peasants had to sneak around at night like underpaid ninjas, clutching a handful of twigs like they were solid gold.
And, oh, it gets so much better. A lord notices that the peasants' cows and sheep are just eating grass for free, and he panics. I mean, free food could lead to wealthy peasants, and wealthy peasants might start asking inconvenient questions. So he invented grazing rights, which is just a really fancy way of charging you for the grass that grows out of the ground all by itself. But the absolute peak of this madness, the grand finale, has to be the rain. You heard me. A lord looks out his window during a storm, sees all this water falling on his land, and concludes that all the rain that touches his estate, it's his personal property now. Yes, they taxed the weather. And look at how they enforced this. You could get fined for hoarding moisture. One poor guy was actually charged with attempted precipitation theft just for running outside with a bucket during a light drizzle. You were literally committing a crime just by getting wet without permission. So all of this led to a system where the fees were just completely detached from reality. You weren't paying for a service anymore, you were paying a subscription fee for the privilege of existing. And believe it or not, there was a very clear reason for all of it. And here it is, this quote from an actual medieval lord's records. It says everything. The point wasn't just about profit. It was about crushing any chance of peasant self-sufficiency. See, if people could provide for themselves for free, they couldn't be controlled. The fees were a weapon. They were about power. And this was the end game. You had lords taxing cows for simply thinking about crossing a stream. They were charging tolls to walk on dirt roads that they never, ever maintained. One even tried to tax fish that accidentally jumped into people's buckets. The justification was always some kind of nonsense, but the real reason? It was always the same: profit and control. So, after going through all that, you kind of have to ask yourself, how much has really changed? This whole mindset of monetizing absolutely everything might feel ancient and absurd, but its echoes are, well, they're all around us. So what is the real legacy here? What happens when you take something simple and free, something people rely on, and turn it into a revenue stream? Well, you get a very specific, and it turns out, a very timeless business model. Here it is, this secret formula, broken down into 4 easy steps. Step 1, find something people need or enjoy for free. Step 2, just declare that you own it now. Step 3, slap a price on it. And the final, most important step, call it progress. Frame it as an improvement, a necessary service.
And that really is the main takeaway, isn't it? The medieval lords might be long gone, but their economic instincts are alive and well. Every time you pay a convenience fee, or a subscription for a feature that used to be standard, or an airline baggage charge, you're living in the legacy of that first guy who decided to charge for baking bread. The methods are a little more sophisticated now, sure, but the mindset behind it, it's exactly the same.